Hey, Coach. His Coach Van Pelt been the one calling in the plays to the quarterbacks in the first two practices?
Yes.
And does that mean he's going to be the play caller in the season?
We're going to work through that, Scott, but with practices, they're scripted. So there's, it's really just relaying the play that's already scripted, but we are working through that, and we'll announce that when it's appropriate.
Okay, thanks.
Next question is to Tony Grossi.
Hey, Kevin, I don't know if it's my imagination, but it seems the first two practices I've seen have been at a brisk pace, not hurried, but brisk. Would it have been this brisk on a normal training camp for you? And do you feel subconsciously the urgency to get in a lot of work in a short amount of time?
Well, I'm glad you noticed that, Tony. We are trying to practice fast. We want to play fast, so that'll be a point of emphasis: offense, defense, special teams. Do I feel the sense of urgency? That's not why we're doing it. I feel the sense that every rep has to count, every walkthrough rep, every 7-on-7, every team rep. We just have to make the most of the time that's available to us.
Thanks.
Next question will go back to Tom Withers, who I believe is now available.
Thanks, Rob. Sorry, Coach. Started raining here. I was scrambling to get the windows up. Hey, one piece of housekeeping first. Is it a right or a left knee for JC?
I will be honest with you, I don't know.
Okay, sorry. It's usually the first question I get from my editors. So, hey, we just talked to Nick Harris, and he said obviously there is a jump between playing college center and in the NFL. Is he struggling where he's supposed to struggle, Kevin? I'm not saying that I'm sure there's a lot of things that are going on for him that are going a lot faster, but is he having difficulties where you would expect him to?
No, I see Nick as all our rookies out there. These guys are getting challenged every day physically by some pretty good players, some pretty good veterans, and we're throwing a lot at them. We're in an installation schedule, so every day they're getting plays that they're going to be required to run that day. Not that they're hearing them for the first time, they're hearing them for the fifth, sixth, seventh time, but there's a lot going on with these guys. So there's every single one of these rookies at some point, you're going to see them maybe slow down their play because they're thinking. And that's where the next couple of weeks come into play, where you get to play and keep playing and getting rep after rep, and hopefully starts to click and they get to play fast.
I don't know if he was not necessarily lying to us, but he said he wasn't really jolted when he heard the news last week. When you guys told him he was going to be with the ones, he was like, okay, here we go. I mean, is that the kind of attitude that you would hope to hear from somebody put in that spot?
Yeah, I would hope so. That's unfortunately, injuries are part of this game, and it's the oldest cliche in the book, but next man up, and I think Nick is ready to roll.
Thank you, Tom. Our next question is from Mary Kay Cabot.
Hey, Coach, just wondering, will you hold Miles out today on the first day in pads? And are you probably, maybe going to err on the side of caution with a guy like that and maybe a couple other guys, especially in light of, I just saw it that Gerald McCoy, ruptured a quad, I think it was. So just wondering, first big day, will we see Miles out there, or are you going to rest him?
Miles won't be out there practicing. But I'll just defer to the medical experts on that, Mary Kay. So I'll trust them, trust the plan that we have for those guys.
Thanks.
Next question goes to Jeff Shadell.
Hey, Kevin. First day in pads, these guys want to impress the new head coach. Do you have to make sure that they don't get overly aggressive and hurt each other?
We had that conversation last night. So the pace of practice should look exactly the same as it did yesterday in Shells. And they have to understand how to practice hard and take care of each other regardless of the the attire that they're wearing.
Thank you, Jeff. Scott Petrick, you're up.
We talked to Olivier Vernon earlier, and he was talking about how he thought there's a lack of maturity on last year's team, and it hurt the team with the high expectations. So I'm wondering, how do you cultivate the maturity on your roster so it's where it needs to be?
I mean, Scott, I can't speak to last year, but I could tell you I like the group we have. I think we have the right mix of veterans and young guys. And, it's early, but I do think there's some leadership on this squad, and that's where the great teams that I've been around have a really strong locker room.
Did bringing back Olivier, is Is he kind of part of that mix of leadership and veterans?
Absolutely. A veteran, has done it for a long time. Respected voice. Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you, Scott. We'll go to Nate Ulrich. Nate, go ahead, Nate.
Hey, Coach, I had another question about Vernon. With him restructuring his contract to come back, saying he wants to be part of this, what kind of sense have you gotten from him about just how motivated he is after last year? And he was hurt and he missed a lot of games and he played hurt, and just how he, wants to be a part of this after, an off season with some, just a little bit of uncertainty surrounding his situation.
Yeah, I think anybody who's dealing with an injury and then a season maybe doesn't go the way you want. OV's an example of a guy that really dedicated himself this offseason, make sure he showed up in great shape, and he did. And he's a committed guy, and really excited to be around him and excited to see him out there on the grass today.
Tony Grossi, your line is open.
I know we talked about Delpit the other day, Grant Delpit, but question about the safety position. You come from a team with two really, really good starting safeties.
And I played the position, Tony.
Oh, better yet. Thanks for mentioning that. You're an expert. So my question is, the way offenses have evolved in the NFL, has the safety position become even more prominent?
Yeah, I think you're right. There's a lot of playmakers in this game at that level of the defense playing safety, and you got some guys that attack the ball. I played it, but remember, I didn't play it well. But I do know that I know what it looks like when it's good, and I'm excited for the guys that we have on the roster. Again, young and old. And you mentioned Grant, and he's a player that we're going to see develop here over the next couple of weeks.
Thank you.
We have one hand up, so this will be our last question. Daryl Ryder.
Hey, Coach, I know injury is part of the game. Part of the reason the NFLPA wanted the ramp up was to try and maybe mitigate some of those injuries from this unusual offseason. You already have 2 soft tissue injuries. I know there's only so much you can do, but I'm just curious, could you maybe give us other detail, maybe what the Browns are doing above and beyond to, try and prevent those soft tissue injuries, whether it's through sports science or treatments or whatnot?
Yeah, I think we're very mindful of soft tissue injuries in this setting. That's where I'm very fortunate to have an excellent medical staff, inclusive of sports science that you mentioned. So we're going to let the science guide us in terms of how we structure practice, maybe how long we go, how hard we go at times. So, it just won't look like that the whole way through. We got to be using all the avenues we have here, all the resources we have to make sure that we're putting our players in a safe environment.
A couple of years ago, the Browns, and I'm not sure if they did it in recent years, but where they would chart reps for players, and really they found a way to detect if a player was susceptible to a potential soft tissue injury. Are you guys still doing that, or do you have a system like that in place?
We do something similar to that with all the technology you have. You know how far and how long and how hard guys are running, so you can come off of a practice and understand the load that they had of that day and be mindful for the next couple days.